Okay, today we're going to take kind of another look at the Citizen Nighthawk, and today I want to look at it from the angle of 5 reasons why I think this is a great watch to buy. Citizen Nighthawk is one of the first watches that I picked up that really kind of got me into collecting. I've had it for about a year and a half now, and I feel like I can give you a pretty good idea of what the good points and the bad points of this watch are. So we're going to look at 5 reasons why I think you should buy it, and right now it's at a really good price. You can pick it up for $190 on Amazon, so I think it's a great time to buy. But there are 3 concerns that I think you should consider before picking it up, and we'll talk about those in the second half of this video. Those 3 concerns are that it can appear to wear a little bit large because it has such a large dial. It has very narrow lugs, so there are certain straps that it will not fit on, and then it has a mineral crystal which is subject to scratching. Now for the first 2, I think I can give you a pretty good idea of whether that's going to be a problem for you. We're going to take a look at it on a couple of different wrist sizes, and we're going to compare it to some other 42 millimeter diameter watches to give you an idea of how it wears, and I think I'll be able to help you out with that. And then we'll also talk about some different straps that I've put it on and which straps work for it and which straps don't. And we'll talk about the mineral crystal as well and whether or not I think that's a deal breaker on this watch. But first, let's talk about 5 reasons why I think you should pick up the Citizen Nighthawk. Real briefly, let's go ahead and run through the dimensions on this watch. You're getting a 42 millimeter diameter case, a 47 millimeter lug to lug, 12 millimeter thickness, with a mineral crystal, solid stainless steel bracelet, 200 meter water resistance, and a screw down crown. And again, the price right now is about $190 on Amazon. Okay, so let's talk about 5 reasons why I think you should pick this watch up. And the first reason is the design of the watch. The Citizen Nighthawk, it's a pilot style design, but I feel like rather than being a traditional kind of World War II style pilot's watch, or even like a 1950s, 60s era style pilot's watch, it's a very modern take on the pilot's watch, which is interesting because it has this, one of the main features is the pilot's slide rule bezel, which is kind of an archaic complication. It's something that a lot of people feel like you don't really use it anymore. But that said, it's a very interesting looking piece because, again, I feel like it's a very modern take on the pilot's watch. But at the same time, it's not like a futuristic kind of cheesy sci-fi looking watch. It just looks like a very industrial, very well designed, almost like a piece of machinery. And I think the knurling on the crowns really kind of brings that feeling out. I think the angular design of the case and the lugs also emphasizes that, and then the bracelet especially is I think a very kind of mechanical looking bracelet. And recently someone pointed out that if you look at the links on the bracelet from the side, they kind of look like airfoils or like the sides of an airplane wing. And I think that's a kind of a really cool touch as well that again sort of sells this pilot's aesthetic. That said, it's also a very comfortable watch to wear on the wrist. The short lug to lug makes that very useful there. So overall, really cool, unique design, not really anything else quite like it on the market to my mind. Second reason why I think this is such a cool watch, and that is that it is, I think, very much a tool watch. This is the kind of watch that it feels more like a piece of pilot's equipment or instrumentation than just a mere timepiece. And so I think it has a really kind of cool tie into aviation history and the aviation industry in general. You're getting particularly 2 complications that are completely inspired by the needs of pilots. The first being that pilot's slide rule bezel, and the second being the GMT hand. The slide rule bezel is actually it's a very functional complication. It's something that people don't use anymore by and large, but you can use it to do a wide range of things. You can use it for multiplication and division. You can use it for conversion between units. You can use it for calculating fuel consumption and things that I probably wouldn't do. But like the conversion between units is actually pretty useful. I've used it to convert between kilometers and miles, or between pounds and kilograms. So things like that. It's kind of fun having that function on your wrist. Even though it's kind of an old piece of technology, it still very much works, and it's actually a useful thing when you learn how to use it. But more than that, I think really it's there to kind of give you that feel of having this piece of equipment on your wrist that can be used for doing pilot-y things. Kind of in the similar sense that you might be attracted to the idea of a dive watch with a helium release valve, even though you'd never use it, because it gives you that connection to the diving industry and that sense of adventure. In the same way, having a slide rule bezel gives you that same kind of connection to a hobby or an interest that you might have if your interest is aviation. The GMT hand is also incredibly useful, and for me, I think this is one of the coolest GMT scales that I've seen. They do a really interesting job of laying it out in this kind of half moon design that is very easy to read. You have the inner scale in white represents the time in AM, and then the outer scale in red gives you the time in the afternoon and evening. And then the GMT hand is actually double-sided, so you get a white airplane which is shorter and it will hit that inner scale, and then when it goes off that, just as it reaches the end of the inner scale, the red one will come around at the bottom and it will start reading the time in the evening. So it's very easy to tell the time in whether it's day or night and in your second time zone. And it's kind of a fun way to read it, and very, very easy to read. The other cool thing about this particular GMT complication is that it's, when you set it, the hour hand, the main hour hand, when you set that, it's actually a jumping hour hand. So when you move the crown to the first position where you would normally set the date, if you rotate it in the opposite direction, the hour hand is going to jump by 1 hour increments. So it will always stay synced to the minute hand and to that GMT hand. So it's really easy to change the time that way. Really handy if you are traveling or even just for setting it. I've had watches that don't have that feature where both the main hour and the GMT hand are completely independent of one another, and it's kind of a pain setting them to try and get the minutes down exactly. So this is a much better way, I think, to do it, and I think it's a really cool feature there. Another kind of pilot-y feature of this watch is the loom. So for a lot of pilots' watches, having good loom is a must. And this one, it has decent loom. It's not amazing, but it's a nice, crisp, cool blue. And one of the coolest things I think about this loom is how it's laid out on the dial. So it's a very simple loom profile. So if you look at the watch during the day and when there's light on the watch, it's an extremely complicated watch with all kinds of information presented on it. But then when it goes dark, it's a very simple watch. You get only the hour, minute, and the hour markers. So it becomes a very simple, calming look to the watch, which I think is kind of a cool thing. It's almost like having two different watches. And so so sometimes if I walk into a dark room and I forget which watch I put on and look at it, I almost don't realize that, oh, this is the Nighthawk, because it's such a contrast between the way it looks in the daylight and the way it looks in the dark. Third reason why I think you should pick up this watch, and that is it is extremely tough. You're getting a 200-meter water resistance with a screw-down crown. So basically as good as most dive watches on the market there. So this is the kind of watch that, even though it's meant to be a pilot's watch that you're using, as far away from water as you can get, you can also go swimming with it. So it makes an incredible travel watch. Just great, tough, durable, all-around watch. Really solid stainless steel construction, solid bracelet. Haven't had any issues or problems with it. So just really great watch all around. I think the bracelet in particular on this one I really like. I think at this price range, it's a really well-made bracelet. You're getting a milled clasp and a very solid bracelet. Solid links, solid end links. Matches the watch really well. The finishing matches perfectly. It's clearly a part of this watch, and because of that, I tend to wear it primarily on the bracelet. I think a lot of watches that come on a bracelet, the bracelet is sort of an afterthought. They found one that kind of they felt like might match it, but this one I really feel like Citizen did a good job of making the bracelet and the watch one cohesive whole, while at the same time it not being an integrated bracelet where you can put some different straps on it. So we'll talk again about that more in a minute. Fourth reason why I think you should get this watch is the Eco Drive movement. So to my mind, the Eco Drive is you can make the argument that it is the most functional movement there is. It's a solar or light powered movement that has like a 6-month power reserve. And I think the capacitor, the rechargeable battery that's inside it, is rated to last around 26 years. So basically, with minimal usage, you're not going to have to crack the case back on this thing for 26 years. It's just always going to be working. It's always going to know the correct time. If you give it some sunlight, put it in a drawer for up to 6 months, it's still going to keep the right time. So just incredibly practical quartz movement, incredibly accurate, just great feature to have on there. And I really like having an Eco Drive watch in my collection, and I like it being the Citizen Nighthawk. I think it works great in there. So really cool feature there. Fifth reason why I think you should pick this watch up, particularly now, again, the price is at a great price right now. You can pick it up for less than $200, which I think for all the features that I've just mentioned, to be able to get a watch less than $200 is pretty incredible. And I think it is probably the coolest pilot style watch under $200 that you can get right now. That's my opinion, and there certainly are some other contenders out there. But yeah, I consider this to be the coolest sub $200 pilot's watch that you can get, and I've been really happy with it. There's a couple of different variations on this, so I'll put some links to some of the other ones below. One in particular that I'm interested in is the Blue Angels edition. It's a very popular one where you can get it on a blue dial with a blue leather bracelet, or not bracelet, blue leather strap. Also really cool, a little bit higher in price, but yeah, I'll put some links to some different ones out there so you can kind of check those out as well if you're interested in some of the slightly different variations on the Nighthawk. So let's talk about the cons of this watch and the three concerns that you might have. Again, the first being that it wears kind of large in a sense. So it's interesting. It actually wears kind of small because of the short lugs. It's very comfortable even if your wrist is smaller. But the crystal is so big, it appears to be a large watch. So optically, looking at it, it looks like a large watch, but it wears like a pretty reasonable watch. So let's go ahead and just first off, let's look at it on three different wrist sizes. And that'll give you an idea of how it might wear on your wrist. All right, now what I want to do is kind of compare it to two other watches that are also 42 millimeters in diameter, because I think this watch, even though it is only 42 millimeters in diameter, it looks like it's larger than that. So here it is next to two other watches that are also 42 millimeters in diameter, and you can kind of see how it looks compared to those and give you an idea. If you have a 42 millimeter watch that's similar to one of these other two, that you can kind of tell how the Nighthawk might look compared to that. So hopefully that gives you kind of an idea of how it's going to look on your wrist and kind of help you make that decision on whether it's going to be too large of a watch for you or whether you think it's going to be a great looking watch for you. Second concern that I think you need to consider is the limited strap options. So it has very narrow lugs. So their lugs are very close to the watch body, so it's difficult to get some straps on there. If you have a thick leather strap, or if you have like a leather NATO strap or a seatbelt style NATO strap, it's probably not going to fit. I did manage to squeeze it onto a Barton seatbelt NATO once, but they're so tight against the lugs, I really felt like it might pop off at any second, so I definitely don't recommend doing that. But if you want to put it on a slimmer NATO strap, I haven't had any problems on that. Definitely like a two-piece NATO strap I think is a great option. Or a slimmer rubber strap, kind of a standard leather strap. All of those I haven't had any trouble getting on. Again, it's just if the strap is a thicker strap, it's probably not going to fit on the Nighthawk. So yeah, keep that in mind. Again, definitely not a thick seatbelt style NATO or a leather NATO. You're probably going to have a hard time with those. Third thing to consider is that it does have a mineral crystal. You're not getting sapphire at this price range. And yeah, so it is going to pick up scratches. I've had mine for about a year and a half, and it does have some scratches on the crystal. You've kind of just got to accept that, especially, again, you're looking at this as an eco-drive watch that you can keep for a long time and it'll continue working without issue. If you keep it for the life of the watch, if you wear it as an everyday watch, the crystal is going to start to pick up some scratches. You've just got to kind of accept that. And I feel like in this price range, again, in the sub $200 price range for a watch from a major brand like Citizen and all the other things that you're getting at that price range, I feel like that's a fair trade-off. And this is not a dress watch, so I mean, to me, having some scratches on the crystal is not the end of the world. It's a more rugged looking watch, and having a couple of battle scars on there is going to be kind of expected. But if you're the kind of person that really hates having any kind of a mark on their watch or on their crystal, this might not be the watch to get. Or if you're into modding, I've heard that it is possible to upgrade it to a sapphire crystal. I haven't looked at how to do that myself, but that's also something to consider. So that will wrap it up for the Citizen Nighthawk. Let me know what you guys think, if this is the kind of thing that you're interested in. Let me know if you have a Citizen Nighthawk, if you love it, hate it, what your pros and cons are. But hopefully that gives you a good idea of whether if the Citizen Nighthawk is for you. Again, there are links down below in the description if you want to check it out on Amazon to see what the prices are. Feel free to do that. Those are affiliate links, so if you use them, I will get a small commission for that, so appreciate it if you do. But regardless, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.